Hey guys, Jonathan here at Night Knowledge. It looks like we're still all suffering with our stash limits in Fallout 76. Good news though, Bethesda has announced that in the December 4th patch, the storage will increase from 400 to 600 pounds. But as long as we have storage limits, people will have issues. So here is a video on hidden things that is weighing you down that you can look out for. Make sure you stay till the end for possibly the best tip that will help you manage your inventory. Number 1. Gunpowder and bobby pins. At the very beginning of the game, gunpowder and bobby pins in particular are in super high demand, but just like previous Fallout games, you'll end up with over 100 pins by even level 20. Notice that each bobby pin weighs 0.1 pounds, so that's about 5 to 10 pounds either weighing down your inventory or your stash. Same thing with gunpowder that weighs 0.05 pounds, meaning that every 20 gunpowder is 1 pound. This is especially important for you melee players that will never need it, so just dump that gunpowder. There was a point on one of my level 30 characters that I made a conscious effort to stop picking up gunpowder and still had over 300 in my stash. Don't forget, gunpowder is not one of those items that automatically transfers to your stash and weighs down your backpack instead. Number 2. Mods, plans, and recipes. I tend to forget after a long play session that I've picked up a few plans, especially when I've done my favorite activity, which is jumping from public event to public event. Each plan can be learned once per character and weighs 1/4 pound. So 4 plans is 1 pound. If you're playing with friends, this is much easier to deal with as you can trade the plans that you have excess of. If you're a solo player, it's time to be more outgoing and use your mic to see if anyone wants to trade with you. Otherwise, you might as well drop these as you currently can't sell plans. I always get really excited when I see those small yellow mod boxes, but never end up using them. Item mods weigh 1 pound each, so unless it's something you intend on using in a level or two, this is one of those bad weight gremlins. Good news though, you can sell and scrap mods that you don't need, but in general it's not worth the effort. When doing public quests, you may pick up quest items that you may not end up handing in. At the end of the quest, they are not removed and can weigh 1 pound each. Check your miscellaneous tab on your Pip-Boy for these quest items. Number 3. Leather, wood, cloth, and steel. It's very easy to accumulate cloth and steel unknowingly, as most items we pick up is made of steel, while any pre-war money that we're used to picking up to sell is actually cloth. There is an easy public event in Morgantown Airport that also gives 100 pre-war money. If you enjoy base building or cooking, you're scouring for fallen logs and typically end up with lots of extra wood. If you're a scrapper, you'll find yourselves picking up quite a bit of leather, especially if you're shooting the wildlife in the game as well. I find the easiest way to make use of leather, cloth, and steel is to craft some level 1 leather armor, which not only gets you experience, but if you scrap it, you can learn mods. If you have an excessive amount of steel, you can spam and make throwing knives at the weapon crafting station. You can't sell them anymore at vendors, but it's still experience and does great damage. Throwing knives are heavy though, so even holding 20 at a time might be too many. Number 4. Fusion cores and special ammo. Each core weighs 3 pounds, whether at full charge or only 1%. You can't sell them to vendors, and they're more common than previous Fallout games in my opinion. So unless you intend on using power armor consistently, it might be good to only keep around 5 on hand at any given time, as even then it's costing you 15 pounds of weight. There is ammo that also weighs a lot in the game, such as flares, missiles, mini nukes, and .5 caliber balls. Flares weigh 0.1 pounds, missiles 2 pounds each, mini nukes at 6 pounds, and .5 caliber balls should be 0.1 pounds. For some players or some builds, you're not using this ammo, so they're just weighing down your inventory. Number 5. Stim packs, Radaway, and other chems. Unlike previous Fallout games, in Fallout 76, chems all weigh something. Stim packs weigh 1 pound, their diluted version 0.5. Radaway weighs 0.25, as well as Radax, both in the standard and diluted forms. All other buffing chems weigh 0.25 pounds. Once again, it all depends on how you play. For example, my melee beast build needs a lot of stim packs because he's taking a lot of damage than my sneaky ranged assassin build. When you dilute stim packs, Radaway and Radax, you make use of your possible stockpile of purified water, thus reducing weight. One stim pack has the same weight as 2 diluted stim packs that it creates. I don't know about you, but I rarely use Radax, so I only keep 5 on hand and just sell the rest. Take note that each stim pack weighs 1 pound, and you're bound to find super stim packs which you don't use because you're thinking you'll use it later, and those weigh 1.5 pounds. So even 5 super stim packs are costing you 7.5 pounds in your storage. Number 6. Explosives. Throughout the game, you're going to accumulate a ton more explosives than any previous Fallout game, maybe more than all prior games combined. These throwables all weigh 0.5 pounds. If you fight super mutants in particular, they all typically carry 1 or 2 Molotovs. Be wasteful and throw them at your enemies with abandon. Number 7. Food and water. Food and water in Fallout 76 has a much bigger impact, and even without perks to make it more manageable, there will be points throughout the game where you'll still end up with more food and water than you'll ever need. In early game, water is a big concern, but even around level 20, if you have a well-established base, you'll have a near endless supply of purified water. What I'd recommend is to only save cooked meats that give a bonus to strength, such as grilled radstag or a few mole rat chunks. I say a few mole rat chunks because I feel like there are times that you'll have 20 plus pieces in your inventory and it'll just weigh you down. Just sell everything else. With a water purifier or an industrial one, you'll eventually get to a point where you'll have 20 plus purified water, which is far too much. I'd recommend unlocking your purifier for a short time until you get a lower amount. Same thing with your adhesive farm. Eventually you'll have so much adhesives that you don't need to be crafting them every time you go to your base. Don't forget, hoarding those vegetables, moot fruit, potatoes, and corn are quick ways to weigh you down. You know what else is weighing you down? All those Nuka-Colas that you're hoarding. I know you're saving them for some special occasion, but take it from me, they're extremely common now, even the Nuka cherries. I like to take turns drinking Nuka-Colas with purified water whenever my character gets thirsty. Number 8. Unscrapped junk. Remember my first video on Fallout 76 storage. Before you transfer your junk to your stash, go to a workbench first and scrap it first. Scrapped junk weighs significantly less than unscrapped junk. There are some junk pieces that doesn't automatically scrap, such as Deathclaw hands, which I believe are used for Deathclaw gauntlets. The hand alone weighs 3 pounds, so unless you intend on making it for an unarmed character, you're better off breaking that down manually at the workbench on the junk tab. Number 9. Power armor. You've probably read it or watched a video on it, but it's worth repeating. You can place power armor on a power armor chassis, and when you collect it, the chassis and all the armor on it will only weigh 10 pounds. If you can't collect a chassis because it has higher level power armor in it, simply stay away from it for 60 seconds and it will automatically teleport into your backpack, at which time you can put it into your stash. You can have 2 power armor chassis at one time, So unless you're a definite hoarder, you shouldn't ever be holding separate pieces of power armor outside of the armor chassis. Also remember at this time, putting more than one fusion core in a chassis causes them to disappear. Don't learn this the hard way. So those are my recommendations on what you should look out for to reduce the weight of your inventory and stash. As a recap, bobby pins and gunpowder, mods, plans and recipes, common resources like wood and steel, chems, explosives, aid items, unscrapped junk, fusion cores, power armor, and heavy ammo. So for my final tip, which you may or may not be aware of, is that vendors at this time only carry 200 caps, which is insanely low and is the main contributor to our overweight situation. What I've learned through Reddit is that there are different factions in the game that have their own separate vendor cap pools. This is most easily achieved with friends by grouping with them and fast traveling for free to each of these faction vendors. This is so that you can fast travel there in the future to sell. If you're on your own, you'll need to take the long and perilous trek to these areas. In my opinion though, it is worth it to be able to access 600 to 800 additional caps per day. I thought of placing a base in this general area, which would be close to approximately 5 different factions, but couldn't find any good house spots with a running source of water. That concludes today's video. I hope my tips helped you out today. The struggle for me is still real, but it is significantly easier than before with these tips. Let me know of any items that you think are weight gremlins, or a base location that you like using as a central location for selling purposes. As always, check out my blog, nightknowledge.com, for interesting articles and my channel for future videos on Fallout 76 and board games. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you next time.